You're listening to XVGM Radio.
Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Mike.
And I'm Justin.
And this is episode 118, Party Game Music.
Insert party game sounds here.
The little like popping.
Yes,
you know,
and the cheering.
Pop. Yeah, and
yes.
then cheering, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Yeah, party games. This is kind of close to some of the topics we've covered with like board games and card games.
Yeah, it was a fine line to walk.
Yeah, because I think we might have actually done some games in one or two of those that fall into this, because Mario Party is technically a board game, though not in real life, not yet. Or it wouldn't surprise me if somebody made it.
If you die in Mario Party, you die in real life.
Correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where we started with the idea. It was like, oh, Mario Party, and then is a party game, and how do you branch out from there?
Right.
And
I kind of struggled with this one to pick tracks. Yeah, I'll be honest. I had to kind of tweak it a little bit in my own mind to be like, what were multiplayer games that I played an insane amount of, mostly at either parties or get-togethers, with friends locally. And so that's kind of the way I approached this one.
Okay, so you may or may not have stretched the limits of the meaning for party games tonight.
Yeah, probably.
That's fair. I had a couple of things already in mind when we had this topic. I remember when I brought it up, I started with Mario Party, and you were like, Jackbox games, and I said absolutely that, like, those are totally party games.
Yeah.
And I had a couple other ones in mind, but it was funny. Outside of the handful of things I had, I realized when I was going through, I didn't actually have a full 5, and I had to kind of dive back in and
Whoops.
do the same sort of thing. Like,
Right.
what defines a party game, and what where's the good music?
Yeah, I mean, I always considered a party game just a game that you would play with a bunch of people, basically a multiplayer game.
Right.
But it's really only being played when you're hanging out with your friends, locally. It's not something you're playing online or anything like that.
Jackbox proves that wrong. Because Jackbox, well, see, you can do it locally, but remember the pandemic. We had, I ran a bunch of them. There were people doing these Jackbox party rooms all over the place. And
I didn't realize that.
Twitch a lot too.
Oh, that's cool.
That's why there's a whole audience section for the Jackbox games, because if you're streaming on Twitch, people are in the audience.
Oh, that's always fun too.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about Jackbox, which we can get back to in a little bit, is it always felt like a local, like played best locally or with people because you all get each other's sense of humor.
That is key, and I think that's part of what we'll talk through as we go through things,
right?
As well as talking through why we put Super Smash Brothers as the intro, and I strongly agree with this.
Yes,
because there's that forever debate: is it a fighting game or is it a party game? And I think
it's a farty game.
It's a farty game.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think the track that we picked here kind of speaks to why, to me, it's a party game. So Final Destination is the track that we came in on from Super Smash Bros. Melee. Came out in the GameCube in 2001. And this is a track that I know very well, but kind of gives me PTSD. Because, and this is the whole argument about party game versus fighting game.
Sure.
This is the track that you hear when you're usually playing against someone who is hardcore about this being a fighting game. Everybody's going to play the same character, no items, Final Destination, and I hate that.
Oh.
I hate that, because what makes it a party game for me is all the randomness and all the weird stuff. The fact that, like, I'm so good at fighting games, but if I'm not playing it this one specific way, then I'm not going to win, and I'm going to be upset about it. Like, you got to deal with the fact that it's a party game, and there's randomness, and it's silly. Like, you don't play Mario Party and turn off, like, you can't turn off
the stars.
Yeah, you can't turn off the randomness, and that's the thing.
Right.
Like Mario Party, we'll get to that too, but it's just, you go through this game, and in the end, it doesn't matter who wins. Like you're all just there to have fun. Sure, friendships will be tested because you're going to do all this stuff, but in the end, it doesn't matter what you do in Mario Party. It never matters until those bonus stars are out.
Exactly. This one came out, and it was obviously, like, I had to get a GameCube, so I got it, like, launch weekend. It was, like, an early Hanukkah present for me. And I spent an insane amount of time with Smash Brothers Melee. It was the game of my entire college time period. I played it so much. And the worst part is that I ended up losing the save file. Like, my memory card got corrupted.
Oh, no.
And so I lost like 4 bajillion hours with that game and had to like slowly start to build it back up. And it was just it was such like a bummer that happened.
That's awful. Oh my God.
And like, I have vivid memories of playing this every day for at least 2 years almost. And I got pretty good. I will say that the interesting thing about Final Destination is we did play with items. And we did play with like all the stuff turned on for the most part. I think you could turn off individual items. So there were certain items we would turn off because like it was just ridiculous. And I never really understood the people that turned off items.
It's because it was a threat to their superiority.
I don't get it. Like, Smash Brothers, to me, what makes it Smash Brothers is the items.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the items, all the different like weird character abilities. I mean, I enjoyed it in, what was it, Brawl, when they introduced the supers?
Yeah.
The Smash Ball or whatever it was. Yeah. All of the weirdness and all of the little quirks of this game are why I enjoyed it when I did.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't have a GameCube, but I had a number of friends who had a GameCube, and I also played a lot of Melee.
Yeah.
I think I probably played more Brawl when it came out because I got a Wii when it first came out.
Right.
And I did get Super Smash Brothers because it was everybody loved it, and I wasn't gonna not have that. And also I think they added Mega Man at that point, or
in Brawl.
Was it in Brawl? Was that in?
Yeah. Brawl had Mega Man.
Yeah. I remember many a birthday party with different friends where it was like, we're all coming over, we're hanging out, we're going to play Melee for a couple of hours, or we're going to have like a Melee tournament or whatever. And those were good times.
Yeah.
It was just when people were like, one week, it's the same kind of people that are all 1v1 me, bro. Like, oh, I can beat you in this game or that game or whatever because I'm so good. And it's just like, shut up and have fun.
1v1 me sounds vaguely erotic.
I mean, you would go there.
1v1 me, bro. No thanks, I'm not interested.
I've got my own 1v1 at home.
I will politely decline. Tadashi Ikegami was one of the composers on this one, as well as Shogo Sakai and Takuto Kitsuta. But before we get to their composition credits, what do you think of the track?
Oh, right. We didn't talk about the music.
This is a video game music podcast.
Well, like I said, it gives me PTSD. So
Right.
No, I like the track. I mean, it was on the GameCube, so we're usually getting Redbook audio on some of the stuff. I'm not sure if this was a mix of MIDI and Redbook audio because there's some things that sounded kind of MIDI-esque.
I think this is like, I think it's MIDI. Yeah. Most of the synths sound really like not real instruments, so to speak. So. But
I mean, for one, it's a classic. I mean, as much as I may not like the stage, it is a classic stage, and this song kind of is... it's practically the theme song for Super Smash Brothers.
It really just comes out strong, and right out the gate, there's a sense of urgency with this track, because it drops so quickly along with the level, and for the most part, characters are just running at each other at superhuman speeds, I will say, I think this is one of the stronger tracks of the entire thing. It's also one of the more original tracks. Because everything else is
like a remix of the game that the stage is from.
Right. And this is just an original stage. So I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people gravitated towards this stage. That and the fact that it's a flat surface, so that people won't have to be like, ooh, the platform killed me or what. Like, there's no blame there. Yeah. Which again goes back to the 1v1 me bro lifestyle. Yeah. So yeah.
No, that's kind of the reason I like some of the other stages, like that giant Zelda stage.
Yeah, that's a great one.
A lot of people hate that stage, but there are so many different areas that you can get to and do certain things.
And you could survive so long on it, too.
Yes.
Anyways, tell me about the first composer.
So, Tadashi Ikegami started out doing audio as the sound composer in Wario's Woods in 1994 on the NES, and has done kind of a handful of Kirby side pieces over the years. Kirby's Dream Land 2 on the Game Boy in 95, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland on the Game Boy Advance in 2002, then Kirby's Air Ride, Canvas Course, Squeak Squad, Epic Yarn, Super Kirby Clash. So kind of, like I said, got hold into that Kirby space, but not like the mainline Kirby games, except for maybe Epic Yarn. I'm not sure about Super Kirby Clash or Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which are more recent 2022.
Kirby just working side jobs at this point,
Nintendo
just
Switch.
Like construction.
Yep. Kirby's construction.
Yeah. Shogo Sakai started off back with Data East, doing stuff like Donald Land, which I think is a Donald Duck game. No, it's Ronald McDonald. That's what it was. Yeah, it's called Donald Land apparently on the Famicom or the NES. He did a lot of the SAS Sakata conversions, stuff like RoboCop, Bad Dudes, stuff like that. Before moving on to games like Midnight Resistance, which he worked on with Hitoshi Sekimoto, doing games like Captain America and the Avengers. Again, Data East related for the most part. He later on left and ended up joining up doing, right around the time of Smash Brothers Melee, working with HAL Laboratories on most of the Kirby games. He did the music for Mother 3, just like a lot of stuff. The most recent sound that they're credited for is on Kirby's Dream Buffet, which is a lot of fun on the Switch.
Yeah, and then you got Takuto Kitsuta, who started out also with Data East back in 1996 on Avengers in Galactic Storm, and did sound on that, and then music in Suiko Enbu Funsaiki on the Saturn, and then the last game that they did with Data East looks like they did BGM programming on Tante Jinguji Saburo Mikan no Rupo in 1996 on the PlayStation. From there, in 2001, they jumped over to Nintendo for Super Smash Bros. Melee, and then it looks like, where the guy that you were just talking about went and did a lot of Kirby stuff, this person went and did a lot of Pokemon-related stuff.
Yes.
So starting out with that same year in 2001 on the GBA doing Kingler's Day, and then Machop at Work, No Puzzle Charayan, and then we go into the Pokemon Ranger games, Pokemon Ranger Shadow of Alima in 2008, Pokemon Ranger in 2006, and just jumping up most recently, like there are so many Detective Pikachu, Pokemon Ranger games in there, but in 2024 they did the music for Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket on Android, which I think is a game that my wife plays.
Just to add regarding Kingler's Day and Machop at Work, those are actually e-reader games.
E-reader, yeah. You get the Pokemon cards and they have the little QR codes that you could scan on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
That's right.
Pretty neat. All right, so we're going to move on to my first pick, which is a game that is really fun. It's called Ball Jacks. And that came out on the Sega Mega Drive in 1993. This is the two-player versus track by Yoshinori Kawamoto and H. Umino. All right, that was Ball Jacks on the Sega Mega Drive. 1993 was the year release. That was the two-player versus track by Yoshinori Kawamoto and H. Umino.
Nice.
What are your thoughts on this one?
It was cute. So I forgot that this was a Sega Mega Drive track because it sounded kind of like something I'd hear on the NES. The bass, not so much, but like the melody sounded... It had some NES chiptune qualities to it. Particularly, there was like kind of in the, I don't know if you'd call it the bridge or what section of the song it was, but there's some synths or some sounds that sound particularly like Legend of Zelda, like the dungeon.
Oh. Okay.
Not necessarily the progression, but like the sounds themselves sound similar to the sounds that came out of the dungeon tracks.
Oh, I got
in,
you.
The NES Zelda game.
I could see this as like if you're comparing it with Lagrange Point utilizing a VRC7 chip on the Famicom. I could see that for this, but this is the tones and everything. I would say are straight up Mega Drive or Sega Genesis. This never got a release overseas here in North America. I don't even think it got a release in Europe. It might have. I can't remember, but. Yeah, Ball Jacks is a multiplayer game that I was introduced to by Ed Wilson, who previously was my co-host on Pixel Tunes Radio.
Right.
And we got together one day, and you might have been there. I can't remember if you were there or not. I know our friend Eric was there, but I feel like you were there. I can't remember. But
anything's possible.
Yeah. we got together. We were just hanging out because we were like, let's pick a day where we could just hang out and play video games. And this was one of the games that Ed broke out, and I was playing it, and man, it was so much fun. We got super addicted and really into it, and I later ended up reviewing this one on my channel, on my YouTube channel, just because I loved it. I had so much fun with it. There's a single player mode, but there's also a 2-player versus mode as well. That's the one that got the most action when we were playing, of course. The first player mode has like some really broken story elements to it. It's not important, but yeah, the 2-player versus mode, essentially you are playing as 2 robot crabs head to head. So one on one side, one on the other side. Behind you are these conveyor belts, and you are getting these balls behind you on the conveyor belts. And your goal as the crab is to grab the balls and pull them to your side. By the end of the match, whoever has the most balls on their side wins. And that's Ball Jacks. So,
okay.
Yeah, really fun, super addictive. Reminds me a lot of Windjammers in terms of the vibe and style. But it looks great, sounds great. It's very simple, but I think there's also a little bit of Pong elements to it as well. There's certain things you can do to stop the balls from being grabbed. Like, for example, if somebody grabs your ball, you can shoot your claw, like your little lobster claw, at the ball that's being taken, and it'll drop back to you. So, yeah, and there's other elements to the game. I don't want to get too much into it, but it is really fun. Highly suggest it to check it out. You can play the cart on a Sega Genesis if you remove like the plastic part of the Genesis that is conflicting, like will cause problems. That or just get a Game Genie. Yoshinori Kawamoto is our first composer on this, and they have this is a Namco game, so a lot of their credits are with Namco, starting off with Philios from the arcade. Philios, why? Splatterhouse on the FM Towns, as well as the TurboGrafx 16 and the arcade version. Games like Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures, Ridge Racer 5 on the PS2, Star Fox Assault, they did sound composition and sound effects.
Okay.
And then they jumped over, surprise, surprise, to Super Smash Brothers on the Wii U and the 3DS, doing music on that. Smash Brothers Ultimate, which they did arrangement on, and their latest game is Taiko no Tetsujin, the Drum Master.
I was going to say, that's one of those Drum Master games. Nice.
Yep, came out on the Windows. The Windows. Yes.
Nice.
H. Umino is the other composer, and literally this is their only game.
Oh,
so
wow.
Short and sweet on that one. But now you've got a party game coming up, which I'm not familiar about at all, and I'm very curious to hear about this one.
Yeah, so this is called One Piece Pirates Carnival. It came out in the GameCube and the PS2 back in 2005. The track I'm going to play for you is called Stage 3, and was composed by Kenjiro Hiwatari and Yuki Watanabe. All right, you're back. That was Stage 3 from One Piece Pirates Carnival, the 2005 game that came out on the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube, composed by Kenjiro Hiwatari and Yuki Watanabe. I picked this one for a handful of reasons, but I like how kind of carefree the song is. I will state up front that I am not a One Piece fan. I'm not a One Piece hater.
Interesting.
I know nothing about One Piece. It is a mountain that I will never climb.
Yeah, dude. Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of people tell me that there's like a place you can jump in more recently in all the stuff, and it'll kind of like quickly catch you up. I'm just not going to do it.
It's just so much. It's so intimidating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I paid attention to what they called the big three back in the day, and that was Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece.
Okay.
I didn't really pay as much attention to One Piece because I'm just not really into pirates.
I didn't watch any of those.
I watched and read Bleach and Naruto.
Okay.
And they were great. And I recognize One Piece is huge. It's very popular. It has a very fun story. I cannot make myself get into it.
I don't know what it is about the shonen stuff, the Shonen Jumps era stuff. I could never really get into like 99% of it. Like, I don't know what it is.
Shonen's not for everybody. I mean, it's targeted at, young boys. Well, young adult boys.
You're a young adult boy.
Yeah, sometimes. At the time I'm trying to think, this was probably like college, and I got into 2 out of the 3 shows, mangas, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I just could not get into to One Piece for whatever reason.
Yeah, you're a super fighting robot.
Mega Man?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
But all that's to say, One Piece is about pirates. It follows the main character, Monkey D. Luffy, who, if I remember correctly, had a fruit from one of these magical trees that bestows you with powers, and he is more or less Mr. Fantastic. He's super stretchy.
Oh, wow.
And he can form his hands into mallets and stuff, and his powers can get more powerful as the show goes on. The real treasure that these pirates are searching for are the friends we made along the way. So that's how I'm going to sum it up. It will never end. I guarantee you they will never let this show die because it is such a cash cow.
Oh, 100%. I literally the only thing I know about One Piece is the fact that the women in the show, their breasts just grow and grow and grow as the show goes on.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in a lot of shonen does that.
Yeah,
and it's just, again, it's aimed at males. It is aimed at people who like fighting and girls.
Yeah. Who doesn't like fighting and girls?
I mean, it's hard to say.
I guess there are people that don't like fighting or girls.
The opposite of shonen is shoujo, which is aimed at girls, and that's like
there you go.
It's Sailor Moon and stuff like that. A lot of magical girl stuff.
See, I like that stuff more.
Well, I was just gonna say I like them equally. So you've got shonen, shoujo, and then seinen is more adult oriented.
Oh, and then you've got hojo.
Then you've got hojo for all the scientific experiments.
That or Howard Johnson's.
Or Howard Johnson. What's the Canadian one? Not Howard Johnson.
Well, there's 2 references there. There's Howard Johnson, the New York Mets baseball player, and Howard Johnson, the food hotel eatery place.
And that's where I went.
I went to both. I used to assume that Howard Johnson owned Howard Johnson's, so that's my error. I will say, one of the things I love about doing this show with you is you come out of the woodwork with stuff that I would never pick, and I love it because it opens me up to see a different side of VGM. And this was definitely something that in my wildest dreams I wouldn't have picked myself, so it's cool to hear it. It's not a bad track. I do agree with you. It's kind of like light, fluffy, kind of airy, and it has this kind of whimsical adventure nature to it.
Right.
Which I think is pretty spot on with what One Piece is, as far as I know.
Yeah. No, I mean, what you know is, I'm sure there's a few things that are inaccurate there, but overall, what we know, with the little we know about One Piece, is really all you need to know to get into it.
Okay.
And again, that's just I never got into it because it's just not my kind of thing.
Yeah, I've had friends.
Sounds fun. It's just not my thing.
I've had friends try to explain it to me just to try to get me caught up, and I was like, nope, never mind. This is it feels like playing like a series like, I don't know, like Shin Megami Tensei, where it's like, hey, I could start at the very, 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 very first game, or I could jump in at the end and just. I feel like it's still intimidating to me.
Right.
You know?
I mean, the
Same thing
anime
with Persona.
has over 1,200 episodes.
Yeah.
Nobody got time for that.
No. Not. We are busy adults.
Yeah, but to talk a little bit about this game before I pull myself off the stage, hook myself.
Yeah.
So this game, for one, didn't get great reviews, but I fell in love with this game at an anime convention that I went to with a couple of friends. I think it might have been my first anime convention.
Oh, cool.
In all honesty, and it was in one of the video game rooms. One person was playing it, a couple of us joined in, and it was a lot of fun. It's a party game. It's very similar. Like, you can tell they got the idea from the Mario Party games, and we're like, oh, let's turn this into One Piece.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's a board game aspect. There are 5 different boards you can play on. All the spaces have, one of 3 types of events. I guess you could say there's event spaces, there's minigame spaces, and then there's captain spaces. The minigames are probably the most common or the most fun because those are the ones where, you're just like Mario Party, you're doing minigames between each other. Events are kind of like, I guess, the Bowser space. You land there and something happens to you or everybody. And then the captain spaces are special minigames where the player who uncovers them plays as the captain and follows different rules. So it's like the 1v3 type games.
Okay.
So like the one player has different rules than the others.
Yeah.
And it's just, like I said, it's a lot of fun. Like, you pick a character from the One Piece universe and you're playing through like a board game with mini games. And if that's what you want out of a party game, I don't know why people rated this so lowly. I had a lot of fun with it. I own this game. I don't own any piece of One Piece merchandise except for this game on the GameCube.
Okay. I think it kind of suffers from Nintendo did it first isms in the sense that, like, Mario Party, for example. Yeah, we're going to talk about it, but, like, it is the quintessential quote-unquote party game that you could think of. But there were other games that were coming out around that time that were kind of copying, like Sonic Shuffle and stuff like that, and this. And for whatever reason, critics were just like, no, this is like a Mario Party ripoff, so we're going to rate it low, So, it's not an original idea, so, that sort of mentality. So I don't know. I don't get it. But, hey, if you had fun with it, and that's really all that matters.
Right. And that's why I would say, like, if that's your type of thing, or if you like One Piece and you are unaware of this game, but you have a GameCube or a PS2, go pick it up. I mean, it's dirt cheap.
Nice.
It's not hard to find.
Oh, that's good.
And it's a lot of fun with the characters from that world. So it's pretty neat. The composers on this I mentioned are Kenjiro Hiwatari, who only has a few different credits here. They started out as a songwriter on a game called Natural Ultimate Digital Experiment, shortened to NUDE, N-U-D-E.
Wow.
Yeah. Then One Piece Pirates Carnival, Final Fantasy Fables, Chocobo's Dungeon in 2007. They did arrangements. They were credited on Culdcept Saga in 2008 as Joe Down Studio. Then they did music on Active Life Outdoor Challenge in 2008 on the Wii. And then finally in 2011, they did sound on Kamen Rider Climax Heroes Forza.
My favorite thing about the description about the game Nude is that there's no nudity in the game.
False advertising.
Hilarious. Anywho.
Yeah. The other guy, Yuki Watanabe, started out also on Nude in 2003 on the Xbox, then went on to do Sega Ages 2500 Volume 14 Alien Syndrome on the PlayStation 2, the One Piece game, and they've got a few more credits here, so we'll jump up to some of their more current stuff. They're listed as Gurg Mother on The Last Story in 2011.
It's got to be a voiceover credit because
I think.
Yeah, that game was composed by Nobuo Uematsu.
Right, yeah. So this wasn't a composition listing. It was just Gurg Mother, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
They did do composing and arranging on Happy Hammerin' in 2010 on the Wii. And their most recent credits are for composing and arranging on Culdcept Revolt in 2016 on the 3DS.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I am going to play a track from Jackbox Party Pack 2, which we talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
This came out on the PS4 and the PC in 2015. I think it got ported to the Switch and everything else.
It's on most things, yeah.
Yeah. Lobby music from Earwax, the game Earwax, the minigame Earwax, is the name of the track that we're going to be playing. And it's by Andy Poland. right, you're back. That was Jackbox Party Pack 2, the second Jackbox game to release. PlayStation 4 and PC were the systems of original release in 2015, and that was the lobby music from the game Earwax, and that was by Andy Poland.
Oh, man. I love this. This is a jaunty little theme.
Yeah.
I really like this one. I'm also very familiar with it because when this game came out, and even afterwards, we played a whole lot of Earwax.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a fun game.
Yeah. We used to play this all the time at our buddy Kevin's quite often, and it was just so much fun. Basically, it's like Cards Against Humanity, but with sound effects. Mm-hmm. So, like, you're given, like, a thing that you need to make it sound like, and then you have to use sound effects.
And you're given a limited thing of like 6 or so sound effects.
Yeah.
You have to pick like 1 or 2
right.
or something to feed the prompt or to fulfill the prompt.
Right.
It's always wacky.
Oh, yeah. When I play these types of games with you guys, I generally stick with the absurdist humor that I'm most fond of. So,
well, for this game, it worked like that. That works probably the best.
Yeah, there's some games that like stuff would make me crack up, and then nobody would laugh, and I'd be like, oh man.
That's just how it goes with your sense of humor sometimes.
Forever alone.
Yeah.
No. Jackbox, just in general, I mean, I think we played the first like maybe 3 or 4 pretty religiously, and then, you know, I had kids, and then, you know, I never get together with our friends anymore.
Yeah. I have 1 through 10. I was buying them pretty much every year as they came out.
Yeah.
I know Kevin was too, because every year until probably about COVID, he used to have a Halloween party, and we would always play them because they used to come out during Halloween.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I have very fond memories of playing this while drinking or hanging out, you know, with everybody during parties. So it was a good time.
Yeah.
Andy Poland is the composer on this, as well as multiple Jackbox games. Actually, one of the games that kind of predated Jackbox was a series called You Don't Know Jack.
Yes.
Which he was
classic.
He was a part of, mostly as like lead writer and designer and stuff like that, but he also did some of the voices, sound effects, and whatnot on almost all the You Don't Know Jack games leading up to the Jackbox Party Pack, which kind of followed it a few years after the last You Don't Know Jack game, which came out on the DS in 2011. So Jackbox Party Pack, he did the music and audio direction on, and then basically all the games afterwards up until 7. Actually, it looks like he is not a part of Jackbox Party Pack 4 through 6. So he did 7 and 2020, and then that's basically it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if he like left the games industry or if something happened to him, but yeah, that's the last one that I see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the You Don't Know Jack games go back to, I think, like
90s.
95 or something. Like, so those are from like the Windows 95 days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So pretty cool. Yeah, we should have another Jackbox night. That was a lot of fun. Like kind of go back to the originals. My other favorite one was the T-shirt hell.
TKO.
Or TKO, yeah, that's what it was called. And that one was great because you could design T-shirts
and then buy them at the end.
Based on like, I think it was you draw the photo or the picture on, you know, the tablet or whatever, you know, your phone screen. And then, like, with the prompts, whatever the prompts are.
Well, there aren't any prompts. That's the thing about TKO is you draw 3 pictures with no context. And then after that, everybody just puts in words and phrases and whatnot like crazy. And then it'll give you a random mix of like a few T-shirts and a few words.
Right.
And then you have to put the picture with the words and make a T-shirt.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
Those are fantastic. The sequel is actually TKO 2 is actually really good.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't change the formula up too much, but you get more options to play with.
Oh, cool. Nice. What Jackbox is that part of?
I think it's 10.
10. Oh, wow.
9 or 10, yeah.
Oh, neat. Okay. Yeah, we should definitely play that again because that's just so much fun. And I know that you've actually bought one of the T-shirts, didn't you?
A few, actually. I bought the one that...
Wasn't there one that said, like, Final Fantasy VIII sucks or something like that?
No, it was Final Fantasy VIII is better than Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, and you bought that one, yeah.
That was the text on the bottom, and the image was somebody had just drawn, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So it was a picture of just like, oh, shit, Final Fantasy VIII is better than Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
I used to wear that to conventions just as a fun little troll.
Yeah.
And then there was the hot dog riding the wave. That was go big or F off.
Yeah, that one was good, too, yeah. So yeah, we have lots of experience with that game. So much fun. So
Yes.
we'll have to get together and play it soon. So
Agreed. Yeah, it's always a good time.
well, it looks like we're getting a phone call on our caller request hotline.
No, yeah.
We haven't really gotten too many calls for lately, mostly because Janine's been on vacation. But
She's back. So Janine, go ahead and send that on over.
yeah.
All right, XVGM Radio, you're on the air. Who is this and what would you like to hear?
Hello, this is Kermit the Frog.
Hi, Kermit. I'm a big fan of you and your shows. And that too, yes.
Yeah.
How can we help you today?
Well, I was thinking that maybe perhaps you could play from a game called Muppets Party Cruise.
Oh, that's a great idea, actually. It fits our theme, and I love the Muppets, so sure. Is there a track you'd like to hear?
Oh, I don't know, but I was wondering if maybe you'd perhaps like to 1v1 me, bro, later.
As long as it's not in Super Smash Brothers.
Great. Maybe you could give me your number or something. And we could 1v1 all night long.
Yeah, Janine, why don't you take care of Kermit out back at some point?
What did he mean by that?
I don't know, and I no longer want to know.
He wants a 1v1 you, bro.
I mean, there's plenty of games that could be a thing, but he was getting a little odd at the end there.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Janine can handle a little bit of Kermit, I think.
Right. Gross. Anyways, so Muppets Party Cruise?
Yeah. We'll grab a track from this one. This is another game that came out in the GameCube and the PS2 back in 2003. We'll play the track Stinky Cheese. And this is composed by Chris Tilton.
You're listening to XVGM Radio, where the bits just keep coming.
Welcome back. That was Kermit D. Frog's request of Stinky Cheese from the Muppets Party Cruise video game that came out in the GameCube and the PS2 in 2003, and Chris Tilton was the composer of that track.
Kermit D 1v1 Frog.
D1v1 Frog.
Yeah.
Oh, he's currently 1v1ing Janine in the alley behind our station,
Gross.
and we'll see what that actually comes out of that.
Wow. Okay then.
Kind of another jaunty song, although not jaunty in the same way that your Jackbox track was, because that was like jaunty in almost a Baroque synth sense, and this is more of a I don't even know how to classify it.
That was such a warped track too.
Yeah.
I know I didn't talk too much about it, but that track felt very warped sounding, like as you said, Baroque but warped.
Yeah.
But this felt much more in tune with the Muppets franchise.
Yes, the big band kind of sound.
Yeah.
Like
but also has that comical vibe to it that fits with the Muppets.
Yeah, all the little sound effects like the whoop and the
What do they call that? The slide whistle?
Well, the slide whistle was the one that they had there, I'm not sure what that was, but I mean, definitely a common part of the Muppet Orchestra arsenal. But it does remind me of a lot of the Muppet Show stuff that I enjoyed as a kid, being in the theater with Statler, Waldorf, Kermit, Fozzie, Piggy, and everybody else, and just being weird and silly. This track in particular, I can't explain why I got the sense, but I very early on I got the sense of Swedish Chef from this.
Oh yes. Yeah, I can see that.
Very kind of like goofy and silly. I mean, they're all goofy and silly, but Swedish Chef is goofy and silly in a very different way because he's got those human hands.
Yes.
Borky.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think of this one?
Same. I feel like it fits really well with the Muppets vibe to it. Very slapsticky and fun. And I could totally just picture seeing this or hearing this rather in like a Muppets movie.
Yes,
For sure.
This absolutely could be a background track in like almost like a heist gone wrong type of thing.
Yeah.
I think I realized now why I thought of Swedish Chef though for this track because the track is titled around food. It's called Stinky Cheese. So who's most likely to use the stinky cheese? Either Swedish Chef or Rizzo the Rat.
I'd say Gonzo.
Is he a cheese?
Isn't he a cheese guy?
The thing I always remember about him is chickens, and he's in love with Camilla the chicken.
Oh, okay.
And maybe he does do cheese.
You are on another level when it comes to Muppets. I am not so much. I watched Muppet Babies growing up,
Same.
and that was pretty much like most of my exposure to the Muppets. I didn't really watch much after that. Occasionally, I'd catch like a movie or like a special that I'd catch, but like. Overall, it's not like I actively dislike the Muppets or anything like that. I just was kind of like, all right.
Yeah, I was very, very big on the Muppets and the Muppet-related franchises when I was a kid. I loved Fraggle Rock, Muppet Babies, The Muppet Show.
Yeah. Why wasn't there a Muppet Babies game?
I'm fairly certain there probably was.
No way. That would have killed on Nintendo.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't a Muppet Babies game.
I don't think so.
Huh.
Yeah.
But Sesame Street as well. In fact, two of my favorite holiday movies, I guess they're specifically Christmas movies, are Muppet-based.
Christmas Carol.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And the other one, I guess, isn't technically a movie. It was a TV special from like 1987 or 88 called A Muppet Family Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes across all the Muppet... there are the Muppets, the Sesame Street characters, the Fraggles, the Doozers, everybody's in it. The doctor and his dog from Fraggle Rock.
Okay.
It's a really cute little thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So,
do you have a favorite Muppet?
Oh, Gonzo.
Oh, really?
100%.
Okay.
I was always a fan of the weird kid. I mean, I was the weird kid. I was always a fan of the weird Muppet.
Okay. I liked Fozzie.
Yeah.
Waka waka.
Very close second. I have a very awful sense of humor sometimes that is right in line with Fozzie's punny and goofy sense of humor.
I think that's what does it for me. I really dislike, I will say I actively dislike Miss Piggy.
Fair. I mean, she's incredibly violent.
Yeah, and just not good for Kermit. He could do better.
He could.
Yeah, like Janine.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we'll see what happens when she comes back. If she comes back.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was even the newer shows. There was like what was Muppets Tonight and The Muppets.
That's the ones with the dudes up top, right? The old guys.
Well, they were in it since the Muppet Show.
Oh, okay.
Statler and Waldorf. But the Muppets Tonight, I think was from that might have been from the 90s or the early 2000s, and then more recently they kind of did it like a reality show, and I think it was just called The Muppets, and it started off like Piggy and Kermit were separated, and there was issues there.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah,
it was like a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't really go over all that well, and I think it's probably because they tried to get a little too serious with some of the stuff, and they were making the Muppets not as fun as they usually are.
Yeah,
but I mean that's what happens sometimes when you try to update properties.
True.
This game is actually the last Muppet video game before the Muppets were acquired by Disney in 2004.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that Disney got the Muppets.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
20 years ago. Oh, a little over 20 years ago now.
Wow.
Since we're recording this on 1/1/2025.
Yes.
So they were bought in 2004.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But this game is, again, it's another kind of like board game party game with mini games. You can pick from 6 characters to play as: Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, Animal, and Pepe. And then there are also 6 non-playable characters: Statler and Waldorf, Rolf, Rizzo, Swedish Chef, oh, he is in the game, Sam the Eagle, and Bunsen and Beaker.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Beaker is actually really high on my favorite Muppets list, too.
Yeah.
Meep.
Yeah.
But the game board consists of a cruise ship that you go around, and the special spaces are they're doors in the ship. So like there's green doors, blue doors, red doors, which are all different types of mini games. There's yellow doors, which are like lottery style 1-player games. And the whole thing, like there's 30 mini games throughout the game. 15 come automatically unlocked, and you have to earn party favors by playing the game and doing well in the mini games.
Okay.
So that you can then unlock the mini games outside of that.
Again, very much a Mario Party clone sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's 2 modes to play in. There's long cruise, which is the board game type thing, and then there's short cruise where just the first player basically selects the mini game and everybody plays whatever that mini game is.
Oh, okay. So, that's kind of nice though, because then you don't have to play the entire game just to play.
Right, you don't have to play a 1 or 2 hour board game to play the mini games. You can just jump right in.
Yeah.
Pretty basic party game from what I see, but it is Muppets, so I might have to check this out because I like the Muppets.
Yeah,
and
cool.
It looks cute. Composer on this I mentioned is Chris Tilton. Chris started out in 2002 doing music for a game on the PlayStation 2 and GameCube called Pac-Man Fever, which I feel like I've seen. Pac-Man Fever, yeah. Okay, that was a Namco Limited game. But from there, looks like he was attached to a handful of licensed games early on. Shrek Super Party in 2002 and 2003, Muppets Party Cruise, and then Secret Weapons over Normandy in 2003, The Incredibles in 2004, doing music on all these games. He looks to be a pretty hardcore music composer. Picking out a couple others here. Mercenaries 2, World in Flames in 2008, Lord of the Rings Conquest in 2009, Star Trek DAC in 2009. Most recently, still relatively currently employed, looks like they did the music composition for Assassin's Creed Nexus VR in 2023 on the Quest. So, yeah, they are still around. I wonder what they're working on now.
Pac-Man Fever and Shrek Super Party are both very similar to the Muppets Party Cruise.
I was going to say, they look to be party games in the same line.
Right.
All right, speaking of Pac-Man, what do you got coming up?
Yeah. So Pac-Man Versus is our next game. This came out in the GameCube in 2003. And track we're going to play, it's a little confusing, but I believe where it's playing in the actual game is the Haunted Hall stage. But the original track is called Original Pac-Man World, and it was originally from Pac-Man Arrangement, which we'll talk about a bit. I scoured the internet to try to find a composer for this and couldn't. So unknown composer it is. Let's do it.
Man, I just can't stand it.
What's wrong, James? You seem frustrated.
It's this home economics course I'm taking, Bob. We're in a competition to be the best baker, but this guy Todd comes out of nowhere and one-ups my baked goods every time.
Sounds like you need star power.
Star power? What's that?
Star power is a special product
created to screw over someone at the very last minute. If you think someone is going to come from behind and win, this screws them over every time.
Oh, wow. That sounds perfect. How's it work?
Well, to add star power to anything you do so you can win no matter what, first, open the giant dice-shaped box. Then, pull out the star and hold it in the air. No matter what happens, you'll always come out the winner, even if the meal you're presenting tastes and looks awful.
You mean I don't even have to have any sort of skill to win? I can just make a total garbage meal?
Absolutely. The worse, the better. Star power takes care of it all, and then some. Give it a try.
Okay, here goes. Wow, look at that. Todd lost. He's even scampering off to complain.
See? That's the power of star power.
Surgeon General warns that star power comes with all you see here and may help you lose all your friends. Reach out to your doctor if you experience a surge in friendship, as the product may not be for you. Use only genuine in Rossiter parts. Void where prohibited. Not available for Utah or Florida residents. Thanks for joining us back on our Party Games episode, and that was Pac-Man versus. The name of the track was Haunted Hall, or at least that's the level it plays in. Original Pac-Man World has been also named the track, but it originally showed up in a Pac-Man arrangement, which I think came out around like 1996 or so. This game, Pac-Man Versus, came out in the GameCube in 2003, and I have no idea who the composer is, unfortunately. So that's how it goes. I will say that I remember this was the game that was showcased at E3, and I remember being like, that's what you're rolling with for like the big game of 2003? But yeah, the game came out, I believe it was included with another game like Pac-Man World or something like that, or Pac-Man World 2. I got it from working at a game store as a promotional thing. It came in like a little case that was like a folder type thing.
Yeah.
And I took it home and was like, I'm gonna keep this. Like, I'm not, I'm not selling it. We weren't selling them. They were just like giving them out to like managers and stuff like that. So I was like, yoink. And brought it home. This game is way cool. We'll talk about it in just a second, but I want to get your thoughts on the track first.
The track is pretty fun. It reminds me of some early 2000s or late 90s techno.
Yes.
Just with that driving bass.
Really bass heavy.
Yeah, many times during the song, my brain just kind of automatically changed the music to the strong bad techno.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I believe I've played this game with you. This is the one where you attach the GBA to the
yes.
game? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was what they were pushing. They were really trying to push connectivity with the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
So you hook this up via the Game Boy Advance link cable to your Game Boy Advance, and you plug that into, I think it's the fourth slot of the GameCube's controller port.
Right.
Up to 3 other people can play against you as you are playing as Pac-Man on the Game Boy Advance. So it's literally just Pac-Man on the Game Boy Advance with you playing as Pac-Man, like the traditional top-down Pac-Man style.
And everybody else with the ghosts.
And everybody else with the ghosts, so they're chasing after you to try to eat you, and it is so much fun. And I've played this at like countless parties that I've hosted, and it is just so very fun. Mario is a guest voice, like Charles Martinet as Mario is a guest voice throughout the entire experience. So as you're like starting the game, you'll have Mario doing commentary like, Pac-Man ate the power pellets.
Oh yeah.
But there's one part where I distinctly remember, and we used to quote it all the time. There's a part where he says, eat the fruit, but he's saying something else. It's like, eat the something fruit. And we could never make out what he was saying. It sounded like he was saying, eat the fruit. And yeah, I don't know what he's saying to this day.
I don't think anybody knows. I didn't think he knows.
No. So that's got to be what he was saying. Yeah. So we used to just go around and quoting that like all the time. Some friends of mine and I. So even though this is technically qualified as a maze game, to me it was always like a party game because we would have people come over and plug the Game Boy Advance in and then we'd play. And, you know, the rest of the tracks on this, there's not a lot of levels to it, but all the other tracks are a little bit more kind of whimsical, kind of lighthearted. This felt like the most like VGM-ish type track with that kind of surging bass line. Kind of gave me like a jungle vibe a little bit at times, so thought it was pretty cool. There's 3 different predetermined score values that you can set for this at either 7,000, 10,000, or 15,000. So essentially what happens is if you die as Pac-Man, the controller gets passed around the room. So basically, when you're sitting there with your friends playing, if Pac-Man dies, if a ghost catches him, whoever the ghost was that caught him, you pass the Game Boy Advance to.
Yes.
And then they start playing from scratch to try to get higher points than whoever was previously playing. Whoever gets to either 7,000, 10,000, or 15,000 points is declared the winner.
Right.
So that's kind of the way that it goes. And man, it's just so much fun. If you haven't played this game and you've got some friends locally, seriously play it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, agreed. Like I said earlier, I remember playing this game a handful of times, and it's always a good time. It's very silly.
Yeah. The game was actually released in Japan as a prize if you were a member of Club Nintendo, but it was a pre-order extra if you got iNinja or R-Racing Evolution. But it was later put with the Pac-Man World 2 Player's Choice re-release.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the origins of where the game came from. So pretty cool.
Neat.
Yeah. All right, so we're going from one Nintendo party game to another. What do you got?
All right. Next up, we're going to hear from a slightly more recent game, going to the Wii U in 2013. This is going to be Game & Wario. And the track that we're going to play, I originally found as being called Chicken Win, but now I'm finding it as Cluck-a-Pop Collection. So no idea what happened there, but this is composed by Yasuhisa Baba. Hey, that was Cluck-a-Pop Collection, or possibly Chicken Win, depending on your sources, from Game & Wario, the 2013 Wii U game composed by Yasuhisa Baba.
That was something. That sounded like a Katamari Damacy track because of the Japanese vocals, you know?
I feel like Katamari has more like either English, or Japanese vocals that are not repetitive, whereas this is
true.
The one loop of the guy saying Kyota.
Yeah.
Which is very silly and kind of in line with the series of games. So this is sort of considered an entry in the WarioWare games. It's not called a WarioWare game. It's called Game & Wario, but it ended up turning into a kind of WarioWare style thing. I guess the original idea for this game was that it was going to be something that came pre-installed on the Wii U. They wanted something just like a collection of minigames.
Okay.
And as they were building this out, it kind of got bigger than what they initially intended, and they spun it off into its own game. So it is a party game with 16 minigames, 10 of which are single player only, 2 of which are up to 2 players, and then the last 4 are multiplayer only for up to 5 players. It says every game is played exclusively with the Wii U gamepad without the use of the Wii remotes. Although that just seems weird to me, because how do you have a multiplayer game where only one person is playing?
I think it's like taking turns. So like you pass it to one another.
That makes sense. Yeah, when I think of like mini games and stuff like that, I'm thinking of, again, Mario Party type stuff where everybody's playing concurrently.
Yeah,
so that makes sense. So I guess it's multiplayer in the sense that each person tries to get like the highest score or the most whatever out of the game. I've not played this one. I've heard of it. But it came out during a time, I have a Wii U, but I didn't do a whole lot with the Wii U. My wife did more, therefore it's actually in her setup of stuff connected to her PC.
Okay.
But I don't know. I remember hearing about this game and it didn't really do anything for me at the time, so I didn't really look any more into it. It does sound kind of interesting, but again, it kind of falls into the same sort of thing that we're used to with the WarioWare games, where like there's mini games and there's the micro games that are built in where you got 10 seconds to do a thing before passing it on to the next person. But it's got all the kind of classic characters from the WarioWare games like 9 Volt, 5 Volts in it, Ashley and Ski. I don't remember all of their names, but it's got most, if not all, of the WarioWare kind of staples. But yeah, I mean, very, very silly track. I kind of picked this one almost like for you, in a sense. Like I picked this one out of all the tracks that I heard from this game because I was like, I think, for one, I thought it was just a fun, silly track, but I was just like, I think Mike's going to appreciate this one.
Yeah,
this one's goofy in a way that I think Mike will like.
I enjoyed this. This was fun. I really don't have much experience with most of WarioWare games. I played the first on Game Boy Advance, and that was pretty much it. I may have dabbled here and there with the WarioWare games, but overall, I don't know. I think it just was a little too lacking for me to really kind of dive into and really appreciate. They're not bad games, they're well-made games, but I think my attention span isn't short enough. Like, I need something a little deeper and something with a little bit more goal-oriented, you know? Like, I think the Rhythm Heaven series is more up my alley.
Okay.
Just because of the melody and keeping the beat aspects of gameplay, whereas this is just like, hit the button fast enough or line it up perfect and then hit the button, and that's
it's all about reaction time with a lot of these. It's see the instructions, parse the instructions correctly, and then do the thing.
Right.
And they're often meant to be confusing because it's where the fun is. Like, oh no, I screwed up, that's so silly, or man, I can't believe you got that was so quick.
Right. It always felt like a one-trick pony to me in a way. Just like, okay, we get it, like it's a reaction thing, but I always felt like I needed something a little deeper. And that's where I think my appreciation for games more like Rhythm Heaven, or really just rhythm games in general, kind of sink in, because that's more of a two-trick pony. You know what I mean? So
I getcha. But yeah, this composer, Yasuhisa Baba, in 2004, they did WarioWare Twisted on the Game Boy Advance and WarioWare Touched on the Nintendo DS. Yeah, they've done a handful of the WarioWare stuff just in general. So Smooth Moves, Snapped, DIY, Game & Wario, like we mentioned, and WarioWare Gold in 2018. They were various sound people on that. A lot of voices I'm seeing, a few composer credits, and some sound direction. But if we go back to music composition, we have the games like Fire Emblem Fates Birthright and Fire Emblem Fates Conquest in 2015 on the 3DS. They did music composition for, and then as well Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia in 2017, also on the 3DS. Their last credit is for lead composer and sound direction on Fire Emblem Engage in 2023 on the Nintendo Switch.
Cool.
And with that, it looks like, well, Janine, you're looking okay. We'll talk about what's going on with you after the show. For now, can you the Patreon line?
Button your blouse back up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's a Patreon request, but there's no audio. Well, who's it from?
Oh, Cam Worma? Yeah, I think we can get someone to voice his request. Janine, patch us through to Ninja Voice Services, please.
there. Ninja Voice Services. Ryu speaking. How can I be of service?
Hey Ryu, can you do a Patreon request testimonial for us for Camworma?
Oh, hi Mike. Hi Justin from XVGM Radio. How did you get this number?
eBay. You'd be surprised what you can find on there these days.
Oh, I see. Well, I'll tell you the truth. The ninja assassination business is pretty awful nowadays. So I've taken to doing cameos and some voiceover work just to get by. A ninja's gotta eat, right?
Exactly. So, will you do it?
Well, I've always considered Cam to be a great friend of VGM podcasts. I'd be honored to share his testimonial for you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryu.
Why don't you shoot it my way?
Gross. You got it.
Yes, there's the email now. Let's see what he has to say. Ahem. Cam says, my gaming experience has always been largely solitary. Some two-player stuff over the years, but mostly single-player adventures and narrative-based games. Needless to say, party games is not a genre I can speak too eloquently about. So, I picked a video game version of a board game that I can loosely associate with a party vibe I can look back on fondly. At the time, I had no idea the video game existed, and I wouldn't hear the OST for many years until a little podcast called Pixel Tunes Radio. You may have heard of it. Indeed I have, Cam. Sorry. Way back when my family gathered at my late grandparents' house for the holidays, we'd grab a few board games and sit around the big table in the dining room after dinner. Pictionary was always a staple. Games could get boisterous and intense as we debate the rules on the fly and race to win an all-play round. My brother and I would always play on the same team, and we were rarely beaten because we were on the same wavelength and could guess each other's drawings with ease. It always felt like a party when my family played Pictionary. I've still never played the video game for some reason, but hoo boy have I listened to the OST. Probably Tim Follin's Opus on the NES, and I don't think that's controversial to say. And that's it. That's Cam's testimonial. Thanks, guys. The bill's in the mail.
All right, so let's listen to Camworma's pick, Pictionary, which came out in the NES in 1990. This is Drawing Game by Tim Follin. Hey, welcome back. That was Pictionary on the NES, and that track was courtesy of our patron Cam Worma. That came out on the NES in 1990, and that was Drawing Game by Tim Fallon. I gotta say, it's always great to hear from Cam and hear his testimonials. I will say I've really never played much of this game, maybe like really briefly. When I was first getting into really hunting down video game music based on the composers, this is one of the games I remember picking up just for the soundtrack and quickly sold it because the game itself is
terrible.
It's Pictionary, and it's on the NES, so it's not very good, because the whole point of Pictionary is you're supposed to draw whatever the item is that you're supposed to be guessing, and then the other person's supposed to guess for the other team, and whoever wins moves on, and the other person draws, and the other team draws, and then that team has to guess. So it's kind of crude to do that on the NES, so to speak.
It's like trying to play Pictionary with a Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, exactly. So not exactly the most fun game from what I remember, but this is essentially a soundtrack delivery system in many ways because, yes, it's a glorious soundtrack by Tim Fallon. I love the kind of funk, chill, laid-back vibe of this track. It's just so smooth and fresh sounding, yet it still is unequivocally Tim Fallon.
Yes.
By and large. So it's a great track from a great soundtrack, which really doesn't have that much music. There's not a lot of tracks on Pictionary on the NES, but the stuff that is there is golden. Cool soundtrack, great music, not great game. Have you played this at all?
No, I don't think I've ever played any video game version of Pictionary. I've only ever played
probably for the best
live action. Yeah,
it's just such a game that you can't really play like that. It's definitely a type of game that you would play in front of people with actual paper, and drawing. It is not something that you would play on it as a video game. I just can't see it. There's very few games that are like that you just can't see yourself playing.
So I could see Pictionary as a video game with modern video game stuff. Like back in the NES days, I don't get that. But like nowadays, I could see Pictionary being a thing that you play online, and like one person has a tablet, and you're going to draw on the tablet, and the other person who's not in the room with you can see as you're drawing. Like you could totally do Pictionary well with modern technology, but definitely not back in the early 90s.
I think with something like the Wii U, it would have been perfect. That would have been phenomenal. Because think about it.
Yeah, you have the gamepad.
The gamepad.
You can only see.
Only you can see what the image is supposed to be, and then you draw it out on the pad. That would have been amazing. Why didn't they do that? So
and then your partner's watching the TV.
Yeah. I'm kind of shocked that there was no Wii Pictionary video game.
Yeah.
Wah wah.
Wild.
Yeah.
As is always the case with Tim Fallon music, fantastic track, very boppy. I wouldn't mind just listening to this in the car or in my home or without playing Pictionary. This is a great song.
Yeah. Tim Fallon, we talked about his recently passed away brother Jeff Fallon in a Patreon episode that we did. We did like a patron live show where we talked about, kind of a tribute episode to Jeff Fallon. But Tim, who often gets like a lot of his stuff gets conflicted with Jeff, where like the two had a very similar style. Tim started off as Subterranean Striker for the ZX Spectrum back in 1985, and he continued working on tons and tons of games for stuff like the Amstrad CPC, the ZX Spectrum, and the Commodore 64. Games like the Bionic Commando conversion for Amiga, Commodore 64, and ZX Spectrum for that particular game. Ghouls and Ghosts had an amazing conversion as well, musically at least, on that. And there was some other cool stuff like Gauntlet 3, The Final Quest, for those systems. Later on, he moved on to doing music for like the NES with stuff like Pictionary, Treasure Master, etc. And then worked on the Super NES for games like Spider-Man X-Men Arcade's Revenge, which is one of my favorite soundtracks on the Super Nintendo. Plock, which is a classic.
Oh, yeah.
Starsky and Hutch on the Xbox, as well as PS2, GameCube as well. Future Tactics, The Uprising, which came out of a bunch of stuff around that era. Most recently, Lemmings was his most recent credit in 2018 on the Android, and the 2017 version on the iPhone. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to move on from Cam's pick to my next pick. We just got a couple more before we're done here. So we're going to go back to the year of 2005, and there was a Bomberman game that came out for the DS that was, depending on where you were, either just called Bomberman or Bomberman DS. And this is the multiplayer battle theme, composed by Morihiro Iwamoto. All right, you're back. That was a blast. Get it, Bomberman? That was the multiplayer battle theme from Bomberman or Bomberman DS, which came out in the DS in 2005, composed by Morihiro Iwamoto.
That was a very Fozzie joke.
Yes, it was.
Waka waka.
Waka waka waka. Oh, man. Yeah, so this, a bit more upbeat than some of the stuff we've had. This always, to me, felt a little bit like happy hardcore type stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Really fast 4/4 time. I don't think it really is, but to me it feels like a little bit of a breakbeat going on in there, which all adds up to happy hardcore, if you ask me. So it's very, very bright, and it matches kind of the Bomberman aesthetic. Like, this is where Bomberman belongs. Happy, bright colors, very silly, and occasionally ruining friendships.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have much experience with Bomberman aside from the WiiWare game that came out, Bomberman Blast, which was, I spent a lot of time playing that online.
I don't know why I assumed this. Maybe it's because we've played Bomberman Blast a few times, but I always thought you were a lover of the Bomberman.
Yeah, it's not like I dislike it.
No.
I've played Bomberman Jetters. I've played the other one that came out on the GameCube, but that's about it. I really didn't play any of the other ones like way back in the day, like the Super Bomberman games. All the ones that came out in Japan or anything like that, Mega Bomberman for the Genesis. I never really played any Bomberman. Even the original NES like game, I never really played. So it wasn't really until that game came out, like Bomberman Blast, that I really got hooked and played it quite a bit online, because it had like 32 player deathmatch or whatever. Actually, it was 8 player offline play, but then the numbers jacked up when you played it online. So that was a fun game.
Yeah, that's a party game. I feel like Bomberman in general fits in the party game genre.
Yeah, even though it's considered quote unquote action.
Right. But because the fact that, I mean, you can play it single player, absolutely, but the multiplayer game is absolutely like a
that's where it's at.
That's
absolutely where it's at.
And it's just you and a bunch of friends just trying to blow each other up. I was never particularly good at Bomberman, but there are plenty of games where if I'm not good at it, it's not fun to just constantly get your butt kicked.
Sure.
But Bomberman, I don't know what it was. It was always fun, whether I was winning, losing, or whatever. Even just on the sidelines, it was really fun to try to keep up with things and try to watch what was going on or pay attention, like who was doing what or who had what power-ups.
Yeah.
But it's just very silly. If you're not familiar, Bomberman, you know, you're a little guy, you're going around this, it almost looks like a maze, although it's not. It's just like this grid where there are certain tiles that are obstacles. You drop bombs and they explode in...
You gotta like get away from the area of explosion so that you don't blow up too.
Yeah, so like it'll explode in that space, and then usually like the space above it, below it, to the left and to the right.
Which is half the reason how I ended up dying in Bomberman.
Blowing yourself up.
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
But so you're trying to blow up the other characters. There are power-ups you can get that make you blow up faster, make you blow up slower, extend, instead of being one space up, down, left, and right, like 2, 3, 4, like it'll extend the length of the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
You can chain bombs. Like if you put a bomb down and somebody else has other bombs in other areas, your bomb will blow up their bombs, which will blow up other bombs as long as the explosions connect to the bombs.
Are there other power-ups in this
There are.
version?
There's also like the skates power-up, which lets you move faster.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the power-ups off the top of my head.
There's like a
there's
fire
a bunch
power-up.
of them.
Yeah, I know the one that I was talking about before, Blast, had a ton of power-ups.
Yeah.
This one was, from what I understand, pretty fun as well.
But this one, so the reason that I actually picked this game out of all the Bomberman games was specifically to talk about a feature that I loved in the DS era that just got dropped so hard and I don't understand it. Download play. This game had the thing, so only one person needed to copy this game. You could have 4 people with DSs. One person puts it in, goes online, multiplayer, download play, and everybody else just turns on their DS, searches for a download play room. It downloads the multiplayer part of the game.
Yeah, essentially the DS was like a controller.
Yeah.
Like
a host. It was a host.
Yeah, it was like a host, and the other DSs that were playing were basically controllers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a bunch of games that used that. I want to say Mario Kart DS had it.
Kind of an evolution of the Pac-Man Versus thing in a way.
Yeah. And it was such a cool idea. And there were so many games that had it that me and my friends enjoyed that they never did anything with it after that. Like there's no games where you just need one. And I mean, maybe it's probably marketing and corporate greed or whatever. But
probably.
If everybody has to buy the game, then they get more money. But man, it was such a good idea. Yeah, Morihiro started out as a sound composer in Mario Tennis in 1995 on the Virtual Boy, and then moved on to music composition in Bomberman Land in 2000 on the PlayStation. They are credited on a lot of Bomberman games, Bomberman Land series, some non-Bomberman games, music on Densetsu no Starfy in 2002 on the GBA, Dr. Mario and Puzzle League in 2005 on the GBA, Crash Mind Over Mutant in 2008 on the Nintendo DS, Deadly Premonition, they did a lot of things like sound design, and they did some lyrics for some of the BGMs, 2010 in that game. Their last credit here is for Deadly Premonition, the director's cut in 2013, for sound composition, sound composer, lyrics for 4 different tracks, and sound designer.
All right, so my final pick for this episode is Mario Party. We had to pick it.
Of course.
N64. This came out in 1998. This is Yoshi's Tropical Island, and it's by Yasunori Mitsuda. Thanks for joining us back on our Party Games Music episode. That was Mario Party on the N64, the original OG.
Classic.
Yes, came out in 1998. That was Yoshi's Tropical Island, and it's by Yasunori Matsuda. Plenty of time spent playing this one. I used to play this a lot with my brother.
The Mario Party?
The very first Mario Party, as well as Mario Party 4. I played it to death with my brother, and it was a lot of fun, but I felt like because we have a 7-year age difference, I'm 7 years older than him, I beat him more frequently than he beat me, so it was, it was tough.
The age gap also comes with a bit of a skill gap.
Yes, agreed. Which, I mean, there are times where he came from behind, but for the mini games specifically, I was well and above better than him. Right. It was one of those sort of things. But I remember the mini games pretty fondly. I really only played Mario Party 1, Mario Party 4, and Mario Party 8. I think it was whatever one was on the Wii.
Okay.
That's really it. I haven't played really any other. I maybe dabbled with 2 or 3. Like as a rental on N64, but I don't know.
Isn't 2 considered like the best Mario Party of all time?
Is it really? I always thought 4 was the best.
Maybe it's 4. Maybe I'm mixing the
4 is incredible. 4 is a lot of fun. The mini games are on point there.
I don't remember which ones I've played and haven't played. I just know that I've played a lot of the Mario Parties in general.
Yeah.
I know some of the more recent ones that they've come out with have been kind of hit or miss. I want to say, is it Super Mario Party or Mario Party Superstars that has it just has things from the old Mario Parties?
You mean like when you get screwed over?
No, like boards and
with the stars
and the games. And stuff like that.
Like the classic stuff.
Yeah, I think that's Mario Party Superstars. That would make sense considering the name. The Superstars one was cool just because it brought the exact board, the experiences from the old games, modernized it by making it look modern. They didn't really change anything other than, hey, it doesn't look like it's on an N64 anymore.
Right.
That was cool. And there's one that came out more recently. I want to say it's Jamboree, Mario Party Jamboree or something.
Okay.
I only know because the last couple days of Game Grumps has been them playing that. And it's been very new.
Nice.
But that looks really cool too. But it's always a good time, despite the infighting and everything that inevitably happens, the betrayals and whatever else.
Friends lost.
Yeah, but at the end of it, it's like nothing that you do really even matters unless you get no stars and you do absolutely trash throughout the entire game. Nothing matters because usually by the end of the game, everybody is within 1 or 2 stars of each other.
True.
And those bonus stars, they either reinforce what's already happened or they completely change everything.
Oh yeah, that's how you get screwed over is with those bonus stars. Yeah,
that's what we call star power.
Yes, exactly. I will say the big complaint was that Mario Party caused you to, 1, break your controller, your thumbstick, or caused you to get a blister.
Oh, yeah, depending on how you did the thing. Yeah.
I've played a ton of Mario Party. I played my N64 to death. I played everything under the sun on my N64. I have never gotten a blister from my N64.
Really?
And I have never broken a thumbstick. I remember this track probably the most out of any of the tracks on this soundtrack. I don't know why, but we always ended up somehow playing Yoshi's Tropical Island. Probably
is that a board or is that a minigame?
I think it was a board, if I recall. So we spent a lot of time with this one, and I just remember the street horns, the little street noises and stuff like that in there. It really made the track stand out and really kind of perked up my ears whenever I was playing. This also really felt like something that could have also been in Super Mario RPG.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I got some vibes from that as well. I mean, that kind of makes sense. A lot of the soundtracks that Yasunori Matsuda or Motoi Sakuraba or, some of the other people that have created soundtracks for the various different Mario related either sports games or party games, a lot of the music kind of blends together in a way, so and the RPG games, so it's not surprising. But Yasunori Matsuda, he has some insane credits. He's still doing work to this day. Probably best known for Chrono Trigger from 1995, where he infamously got sick during the creation of it by stressing himself out. But he started out doing sound effects on Final Fantasy V and continued working with Squaresoft before they became Square Enix, Xenogears in 98. Afterwards, he started working with the Mario Party team, doing Mario Party 1, Mario Party 2. His final game was Sea of Stars, which he's still composing. You know he is.
But Well, he was a guest composer on that.
He was a guest composer on that in 2023. All right, so we're closing out the episode. We're going to go back in time a little bit to a previous track, but a newer version of that game.
I was going to say, we're going forward in time to a newer game.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. This is going to be the Jackbox Party Pack 7. Mm-hmm. This came out for pretty much everything in 2020. It's on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox, Switch, etc. My laptop.
My wife. It's on my wife. Go Waka.
The track is called Lobby, and this is from Champed Up, and was composed also by Andy Poland. All right, you're back, and this is the end. That was Lobby from Champed Up from the Jackbox Party Pack 7 that came out in 2020 and was composed by Andy Poland.
Man, that gave me some vibes of techno electronic music, but I feel like I've heard it in a movie before.
Blade?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got some of those synths that really match up with Confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the, I believe the song is called Confusion, and it's the, everybody calls it the Blood Rave, because it's from the opening scene of the first Blade movie in the 90s.
Such a good movie.
Such a good movie, such an awesome scene, such a good song.
Yes.
It's so sick. And so that's part of the reason that I picked this track. I also picked it because the game Champed Up is a lot of fun. It's kind of similar to that TKO game that we mentioned.
Oh, cool.
It's a drawing-related game, so it's considered a wrestling game. So the players are drawing wrestlers based on input, and you're wrestling. You're competing for different titles.
Okay.
It's your drawing versus their drawing, and then everybody has, I think, like 15 seconds or whatnot to vote, and you can move your votes back and forth, and you'll watch the health bars of the wrestlers go back and forth. And it's very silly. In practice, like when you're playing a game and you've played some of the Jackbox games up to this point, it's a little weird because people are used to just like putting in a vote and then calling it there. But this is meant to like, go back and forth and be very like high intensity. And the music that they put into this game serves that purpose.
Okay.
Like they're trying to like get you amped up, even though it's a very silly, like, what drawing do you like better game?
Yeah.
They're trying to make more out of it by adding like, a audience cheering.
Yeah, that makes
music
sense.
And all that crazy stuff. Trying to make it like a wrestling match.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Nice.
So very, very, very cute, very silly.
Fun.
To provide a little bit more information, on this minigame, Champed Up. So it's for 3 to 8 players. You start by creating your own champion and challengers by drawing them. You're given some weird names to base your drawings off of, or you can completely ignore them and just draw whatever the heck you want. The players' creations are then, pitted against each other, with the players in the audience voting for the best one in each round based on how fitting a character is for the given category. I mean, that's what they say. In reality, it's going to be whatever. People are going to vote for whoever they want for whatever reason they want. And that's what it always comes down to in these games. And then so every time you win a match, you get money in the game, and then the winner of the overall game is whoever won the most money throughout the experience.
Okay. So, cool.
Very simple, like a lot of these games are, and very silly.
Simple is fun.
Yes.
Fun is simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
The composer, Andy Poland, we already talked about since you did the other Jackbox game earlier. So that kind of brings us all the way to the very end here. Anything about this game or this track you want to talk about?
Well, I haven't played the game, at least not this version. And the song was great. I was pretty amped up listening to it. So,
all right. Well, so then that brings us to the part of the show where we like to pick our favorite tracks. And I will ask you first, what was your favorite track tonight?
I think I'm going to go with that Jackbox Party Pack 7 track, the Champed Up.
Yeah,
that was dope. I did not expect that at all. So I feel like that really caught my attention, and that stuck with me. That's definitely a track that I would listen to outside of the game too. Whereas a lot of these tracks are more like within the actual game itself, I'd be down to listen to.
Yeah.
Probably second place would go to Pac-Man versus the Haunted Hall track. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I really did kind of save the best for last out of my picks. I enjoyed all my picks, but that one really is my favorite just because of, that techno vibe and the electronic sound of it. I think overall, Cam's pick, the drawing game track from Pictionary by Tim Fallon.
You can't go wrong with Tim Fallon.
I mean, just to build on what you said earlier, that's a track that I would absolutely listen to outside of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Partly because it's not a game that I really want to play.
Yeah.
But also because
100%.
it's a really good, it's a really great track. So thank you, Cam, for calling that one in. Outside of that, you had some really good picks too. I mean, I love Earwax from Jackbox Party Pack 2, so that was a really good pick for you there.
Yeah.
And I do agree that Pac-Man versus track is really good. I haven't played as much Pac-Man versus as you, but the handful of times that I have played, it's always been a good time.
Always fun, yeah, for sure. What are your favorite picks from what we chose? Let us know in our various social medias.
So we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are
Cam Worma, Jordan and Anson Davis, Rage Cage, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Scott McElhone, Claire Myers, Brad Austin, Chris Murray, Llama Adam, Marcus Stewart, Red Hua, Nick Davis, Ryan McPherson, and Chris Murray.
If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/XVGM Radio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you at the end of the show and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
If you've liked what you've heard, please consider giving us a review on iTunes.
You can join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at facebook.com/groups/xvgmradio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks, or just talking about the podcast itself.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle on both of those sites is @XVGMRadio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links will be in the show notes.
All right, coming up, episode 119. We are starting off a little late.
Yeah.
So we're going to be coming back with our good buddy Nico Tengoku, who is our official third co-host who pops up once a year at the beginning of the year. And we're going to be tackling what, Justin?
So we're going to be talking about the Sharp X68000.
The Sharp X68000 was a Japanese computer that played video games. That was its bread and butter. And there are so many amazing soundtracks for the Sharp X68000. And we're going to be tackling all, or as much as we can within that time period. for episode 119. We are also going to be hosting an XVGM After Dark this month.
And that will be on January 21st, and we'll be covering the
Shadow Dancer, The Secret of Shinobi on the Sega Genesis. That's what we'll be listening to, a really cool, jazzy, abstract soundtrack. So this will be most likely airing after that episode. So go over to Justin's Twitch to check it out, twitch.tv/shock83j16, and most likely the episode will be there.
Yes. Yeah. And then there will not be a Patreon in January, as we've kind of switched to doing them every other month on the even months. So we'll be back to it in February. Obviously, December, we had some things we had to deal with, so there was not much to do in December, but we are sort of playing catch up. So we'll see you throughout the month. And when we come back in February, we'll have, as Mike said, that episode with Nico Tengoku. We'll have a Patreon episode, which we haven't scheduled yet, and we'll obviously have another XVGM After Dark that we'll have to identify and schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is Mike
and Justin
signing off for XVGM Radio.
This composer, Yasuhisa Baba, not to be confused with Yasuhisu Baba Yaga, who's not a real person.
No. Stage 2, or sorry. Whoops, wrong line.